Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here, the Watchmen. And I'm here with you today with none other than Mr. Mark Sutherland coming at us all the way from London, England. Mark, thanks for joining the show today.
Absolute pleasure, my brother. Good to see you. Good to
Good.
see you. Excuse my big ears that have got on today, but all the microphones, the others have all broken, so I'm just wearing those.
Well, they look fine on you. You look like a professional. Now, last week, Mark and I tried to do a show and we couldn't connect because I was at the spiritual warfare training workshop in Long Island or on Long Island, New York. Russ Dizdar led it. Shelley Dizdar spoke. Thomas Dunn spoke and taught classes, and Sherry Clausen was there and she taught classes. Just an amazing, amazing event. You can still, if you hurry, order DVDs. Just go to hearthewatchmen.com. Not only do you get the DVD set, but we're also including Russ Disdar's workbook that he used during the conference. So we're going to send that to you as well. It's spiritual warfare, strategic and future. So that comes with your DVD set. And we also have just shipped out all the Dallas conference sounding the alarm DVDs. So those are on their way to those people who have bought them. We have about 20 units left. So if you want one of those, just go to the website, hearthewatchmenmen.com, and pick something up today. We appreciate it. Mark, what in the world is going on your side of the pond this week?
I can't really think what you're alluding to, my brother. I think someone came to visit. I think someone came to visit. Oh, of course, it was President 45, President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, arrived on the 3rd of June and was around in London, the United Kingdom, until the 5th. So I was delighted, not that I'm giving any clues, but I was delighted that he actually flew over the back of my backyard. From this point, I looked out, and there he was, 2 American helicopters, 2 Chinooks, and a police helicopter. So there you go. Of course, he waved to me and thanked me personally for all the support that I actually give him. I just want to say that. But actually, he did, which was quite fun to see that. So yes, he landed. It's been rather interesting. As you know, that the president is extremely hot on the tweet button, is the fastest tweeter that we know of. And it didn't take long for him to land at Northolt and put the Mayor of London in place. So let's just put a little bit of context. So we have the Mayor of London, Mr. Sadiq Khan. Under his watch, we have seen knife crime raise, we've seen robbery raise, we've seen gun crime raise. We have not seen the social housing that he promised to build yet happen, really. I think now it's beginning to happen, but he promised certain things in the first year and all the rest. Now, without anyone going, well, why are you being, why are you saying all this? Well, the reason why I'm saying all this is because that particular individual uses every time the President of the United States flies in, he uses it as an opportunity to grandstand. The only thing he's interested in, or has been interested in until this point, Mike, is to become leader of the Labour Party. And that's all what it's about. It's about saying, well, look, I can compete on the international stage and have a go at the president. Anyway, so he was quickly swiped aside by being called a stone cold loser, as he is. And then the Trump blimp, of course, was flown, and then the Trump blimp came down because someone pierced it. They were arrested for doing that, but they did a job that maybe many of us actually feel that maybe we should have done a while ago. As I've said on another platform, I've actually stood next door to the Trump blimp. I bounced all over it. Once people find out, maybe I won't be employed anymore. But I have, and with my views, that's rather amusing. I will share that photograph when I'm in Ohio talking at Mike Spalding's conference. Therefore, go. So I'll share that. I'll wait till then. So that was that. Then the main reason why the president was over here was to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings. So I'm just going to go for a little visual aid. This is a little model of the boats that all the Allied forces climbed out of on D-Day after sailing over and then came off this landing craft. Now you imagine that under fire, and of course the American soldiers took the heaviest fire in Omar, I think Omar Beach. So if we look at there's a casualty figures at that time were very, very hard to read at that time and calculate, because understandably they were concentrating on winning that battle, which was horrendous. So Allied casualties on that day, some people have said, are 10,000, and 6,900 of those, or 6,700, would have been American forces. So the fact that we then have the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, and the Labour Party not attending that ceremony down in Portsmouth and going to an anti-Trump, an anti-Israel and pro-Palestine rally type, and all this kind of objections, is rather insulting. Because whatever you think of the President of the United States, at least honour the office and honour the fact that American lives died in saving Europe.
Yeah,
so let's just put another little context here. You know, I'm just going to say this. I'm sorry, but when we see Sadiq Khan calling the President of the United States a fascist, which is just outrageous, let's just give a quick definition here, Mr. Khan. As I said on somewhere else this week, and a friend of mine used the word Nazi, National Socialist Workers' Party. The clue, Mr. Khan, is in the word socialist. You're supposed to be, you talk about being a socialist, you know. So history is being revised, and people need to really know their stuff, including me, and I make mistakes at times, as you do. But that insult is outrageous. And I know you have links, I know, with what your father served in the Pacific. One of my grandfathers was actually in the Home Guard. The other one of my grandfathers was on HMS Wolf in the British Navy. So all of these things run deep, but to actually not show respect on that particular event is outrageous, Mike.
Yeah, we watched that all unfold from this side of the pond, and it truly was disgusting. I mean, it really, really, truly was. Now, what does this guy have in mind? Does he really think he can become prime minister?
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because to answer that, I then want to talk about the by-election in a minute. But if we do not Brexit, if the Conservative Party does not see through Brexit on October the 31st in a way that the British people are happy with, well, the fact that, as we've said, 53 people rather, with a majority of over 1 million voted out. It was a democratic decision on June the 23rd of May 2016 that hasn't been put forward. We nearly have 3 years of wasting and barricading over that. The bottom line is that the people that voted to leave are now, there's a civil war going on with our own parliament, because the parliament doesn't want to put through the will of the people. If we had an election, and with the fact that the Brexit party, who I believe are the true conservative Tory party in this country, will split the vote, and by that you could then say that Jeremy Corbyn could get in. God forbid, amen, that he does not get in. Because at the end of the day, let's quickly say this caveat about Corbyn. Corbyn has always been against the European Union. And the reason why he has been against that, because it doesn't fit his own narrative, in my own opinion, of communism. Corbyn's track record in regard to Hamas, Hezbollah, bestowing the delights of Venezuela are all out there. And including the IRA, are all out there. You know, I'm not saying anything that isn't out there. So he is just this one big protest movement. He is not fit to actually lead this country, in my own personal opinion. But many people will, end up voting for him and all this kind of thing. I hope not, Mike. Now, what was interesting this week, so on Thursday, we had a by-election. So I'll just quickly explain that. in the fact that, so a few weeks ago we had an election in May in regard to the European Parliament. So there are two separate parliaments. This is what all the row is about over Brexit. So the European Parliament, remember, the European experiment was set up in 1923, where each individual country that joined would have, treaty by treaty, would have the democracy of their countries taken away without it being explained. And Bostad in the European Parliament over the last few months has been bestowing that more and more people have to give over the sovereignty of their nations and all this kind of thing. No, thank you, because we will have even more bureaucratic tyranny. So we had a by-election. What a by-election is in regard to Westminster Parliament is whether a sitting MP has sadly either died or, in this case, been given a prison sentence for speeding and then lied about it, blamed a cousin, and I think blamed her brother, etc., etc., was found out and was given a prison sentence. This particular individual, whose name has gone, who was a member of the Labour Party, then was taken out of prison with her tag in, pushed into the Westminster Parliament a couple of months ago to vote in regard to, you can't make this up, brother. You think Congress is bad. You just wait. You cannot make this up. In the fact that she was asked to vote on a vote that was put forward in regard to that it's illegal for us, according to Parliament, to actually leave the European Union without a deal. That is not what people voted for in 2016. So that was pushed over the line. Labour then suspended this woman. She was kicked out, suspended from being an MP. So they had a by-election. Now, the Brexit Party, Labour won the by-election by 683 votes. The Brexit Party was second. A party that was only started 8 weeks ago. A party that does not have the machinery and the sort of embedded machinery to get the vote out like a party like the Labour Party have, or the Conservative Party. Labour Party is over 100 years old, Labour Party 200 years old, etc. So they do not have the machinery. But the fact that the Brexit Party is 8 weeks old did incredibly. So they lost by 683. Now, Peterborough in 2005, there is a history of voter fraud, and 3 members of the Labour Party, three Labour councillors, 3 Tory councillors were actually prosecuted over that. There is a whiff around in regard to voter fraud, maybe this time. There's an interesting article in the Daily Mail about this, where suddenly Jeremy Corbyn, Lisa Forbes, who's the MP that won, they're having a photograph with a man that was actually put in jail in 2008 for voter fraud, and he's a member of the Labour Party. So you start to question a few things. We can't prove it, but it's not good. And of course, within our system, if you come second, you're not a winner. But the fact that the Brexit Party 683, what it shows to us is up and down this country, there are a number of members of Parliament seats that are on the edge, that have either been won by that kind of margin, 600 votes here, 1,000 votes here. Just quickly say, in that by-election in 2017, the turnout for Labour was 22,500 votes. This time it was 10,404 votes. It's hard. And a lot of people didn't go out and vote. 67% of people voted in the election. And in 2017, I think only 47% of people went out and voted this time. It's in a heavy Leave area. So a lot of people didn't go out and vote, or the vote is split between the Brexit Party and the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party came third. Now, this has sent tremors through, Mike, because now, as you know, on Friday, on the 7th of June, Mrs. May stood down. She's now no longer officially the Prime Minister of this country. She has gone. So the race has started to find out who the next leader of the Conservative Party will be, and by being the next leader of the Conservative Party, you will then be automatically the Prime Minister of this country. So the number one person in the running is Boris Johnson, the man that President Trump made a reference to, which is rather amusing, especially as everyone goes, well, he shouldn't be interfering in the politics of our nation. Well, I'm sure this is my personal opinion. The Donald being the Donald, forget that. If I want to have an opinion, I'm going to express an opinion. So he did, because Boris Johnson's the only person he knows other than Nigel Farage, and Nigel Farage isn't sitting in our Westminster Parliament. So it's going to get very interesting. I think Boris Johnson, he will win it. Boris then needs to make sure that we leave, along with many others that he puts inside his new cabinet, that we actually leave on the 31st of October. The Remainers within the Labour and the Conservative Party are doing whatever they can to ignore the European vote, whatever they can to ignore the fact that people actually voted to leave the EU. So over the next few months, Mike, and the official date is put back to the 31st of October, we've already had someone called Michael Gove, who thinks he's in the running to try and be Prime Minister. He's someone that stabbed Boris Johnson politically in the back. That's the infamousy that he did. He fought for us to leave the EU. And then he's turning around and going, well, actually, the date of the 31st, we could let that slip. Well, as soon as someone's saying like that, sorry, you're out, mate. Anyone who agrees with that, you're out. And I have to say that Boris Johnson, on the third reading of Mrs. May's non-deal, actually voted for it. So he's got a bit of soul searching to do. There was also a private court case brought, which is profoundly politically motivated, to actually against Boris Johnson over the fact that they said he lied in regard to the amount of money that we could get back from the EU per week that we could spend on the National Health Service. Well, actually, technically, he did lie, because the number on the side of the bus was 350 million, where actually that was the net, and it should be gross round about 363 million. So it wasn't enough. So Boris sort of got the figure wrong, but in the wrong way. So actually, what he said is outrageous that someone's wanted to take him to court. The good news is, I think on Friday, that court case was thrown out. That was thrown out. So, you have discovered your swamp over the last few years. We are discovering our swamp big time. Now, the other big news that affects both our countries, because it seems in the Mueller report, as Dick Morris said, all roads lead to the UK, and they lead to Christopher Steele with that dodgy dossier. The dodgy dossier, right? A bit like the dodgy dossier that Blair and Campbell got together in regard to invading Iraq. Well, that's another subject for another time. But the dodgy dossier, he has now made a deal, I believe, with the DOJ on your side of the pond. Looks like Mr. Barr has stretched his arm all the way across the pond and
long reach.
The collar of this man, a long reach. So it looks like the extradition policies that we have in regard to America could be scaring the living daylights out of him. So he has said he's going to talk to the DOJ, which of course must mean that Mr. Brennan has decided to go to the toilet rather a few times, because he must be having a chat with Mr. Crapper, because basically he will be in serious trouble. Everything is going to be revealed. So it's getting very interesting. They are some of the highlights. And then the other last thing that is major on this side of the pond, but it actually goes further in Europe, is the fact that the Italian governor, boss, prime minister, leader of Italy, Salvini, has turned round and said that they're going to look at establishing a new currency to run alongside the euro. The European Central Bank, the European government, blah, wanting to slap a fine on Italy of 3 billion euros because they have not been servicing their debts properly. Okay, now this is very interesting. You and I talk about as if the European experiment, the EU is going to continue. It's whether the European Union actually goes down. And one of the factors that can bring this about is the Italian economy going belly up, which would then affect everyone. It would affect us, of course, in regard to bank loans. So it's been, in my opinion, an amazing week. And I'd just like to refer to this. Our dear friend Piers Morgan seems to be doing a double take in the fact that he did an excellent interview with the president and was even defending him. He wrote an article in the Daily Mail lambasting Sadiq Khan. All credit to him. So Piers is, it's interesting that you and I are finding ourselves agreeing with him. He still has an issue over gun control, so hopefully he'll sort that issue out. But so we've had that. And there is no doubt about it, in my opinion, no matter what the press say on your side of the pond, and of course the snarling press over here, is that the state visit was a resounding success. And you should be very proud of your president, because it was a resounding success. And of course then, just to fill this in, we then had the snarlingness from the press, and even Acosta of CNN has had to admit that it was a good state visit. Yes, there were protests, but not as many protests as people would like to believe. And there were also people out on the street from this country, sadly I couldn't be there, showing their support for the President of the United States. Now, so that's where we're at. But the other thing that I did notice, the fact that Mr. Trump threatened Mexico with tariffs, and then it seems as though Mexico has backed down, sending their troops to the border of Guatemala and all this kind of thing. But it was the way the snarling and that has gone out on the BBC over this, even accusations by some news agencies going, well, there's a bit of, not everyone agrees in the Trump administration about this. I think that's complete and utter baloney, as we would say, on both sides of the pond. So it's interesting how the press has played this. But there is no doubt about it, in my own opinion, on seeing how the president conducted himself, he's actually growing into quite a statesman where people enjoy the fact that he will say how he feels, but he is actually growing into that role of being the statesman that we all felt in time, no doubt about it, that he could actually be. And it is refreshing. Just because someone's not brought up as a politician, it's refreshing. The person has life experience, and also he has links with this side of the pond, as I believe his mother came from Stornoway. So an interesting week, my brother.
Yeah, it really has been, Mark. And let's not forget, you guys are going to keep Nancy Pelosi. You're not letting her come back home, right? I mean, she's yours now. But
I'd rather not. I would rather not, my brother. I think she's returning. She's returning.
Well, listen, it's been quite a week. We're going to try and touch in again with Mark on Wednesday evening if he's available. And we'll be back with you next Saturday or next Sunday, depending on weather and things like that, and internet difficulties. But remember, like we always say here on the Watchmen's Report, there's nothing you can't do with Jesus in your heart, except nothing at all. Get busy, activate your faith, get out there, and do something for the kingdom. Mark, thanks again for taking time out of your Sunday evening to join us here on the Watchmen's Report.
Absolute pleasure, my brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We'll see you next week, folks. That's going to do it for us for now. God bless each and every one of you. Until then.